Hi there, gorgeous. I have missed you, and I want to apologize for my absence over the last 2 weeks. I know many of you have noticed that I have been absent and you've been asking, where are you? What's going on? I hope everything is okay. I have been giving small updates on Instagram, Twitter, a lot more updates on my Snapchat account, but for those of you who don't have access to those social media platforms, I wanted to make sure that you were aware of what's been going on so that nobody was worried. And I do want to let you know that there was a valid reason for my absence. Anytime that I would be absent from YouTube, which is very rare, I might add, I do have a very valid reason for it. I wouldn't just disappear because I take my job very seriously here and I love what I do. So I just want to put that up front. If you ever see me inactive, then there's something going on. So we'll start at the very beginning. 2 weeks ago, my son got very sick. He is 13 months old, for those who are not aware, and he came down with 104 fever. This was on a Friday night. We took him to the doctor Saturday morning, had his ears checked because last time he had 104 fever like that, it was an ear infection, so I kind of figured that's what it was. Doctor could find no indication of an ear infection. He simply told me he didn't know what it was and to let it run its course. They tested him for the flu, that was negative. The fever was completely poo-pooed, which really upset me because to me, 104 fever is nothing to mess with. But we had no other choice because there was no other information being given. So we let it run its course. It got worse. So a few days later, this fever was still continuing, 104.3, 103.5, and I'm getting extremely worried. So we take him back to urgent care. They did a whole run of tests on him, blood work, everything. They found out what he had was a viral infection, not bacterial. The doctor suspected that he had back-to-back colds, and that's why it was so hard for him to get over this fever that he was having. So he said again, just let it run its course. In the midst of all this, the Monday after Jet came down with this sickness, I got a call from a family friend that my dad had been admitted into the hospital. Those of you who don't know, my dad lives 8 hours from me in Georgia, and that was all I was told. I was told he had ketoacidosis, his blood sugar was up to 600, he's a type 2 diabetic. They suspected he was missing his insulin shots. I talked to him later. He said, yeah, he had an alarm that had malfunctioned that reminded him to take his morning insulin, and he figured that's why his blood sugar had gotten so out of control. This was all I was told at this point. So Monday comes through, Tuesday, Wednesday, and I'm calling every day, like 5, 6, 7 times a day, checking on him. And Wednesday I talked to him and he was doing pretty well. He sounded a little better. Everybody was hopeful around him. And then Thursday came and I called. No, wait. Thursday, he was okay. Thursday was the day that I got sick and it hit me like a ton of bricks. And I was completely miserable. So Jet was miserable. I was miserable. And I'm worried about my dad. Well, Friday came and I actually had a friend come in, God bless her, to help me with Jet because I was so exhausted. He wasn't sleeping. When he's sick, he doesn't sleep. And so that means everybody else in the house doesn't sleep either because we don't believe in the cry it out method. So we were all exhausted and this friend had offered to come in and help me out with him that morning so I could sleep. Well, before I went back to bed that morning, I called the hospital to check on my dad. And the nurse up until Friday had been telling me, you don't need to be here. He's doing great, yada, yada, yada. But it was on Friday that I got a very different report on my dad's progress. And he had a very sharp decline in his health all of a sudden. And I asked the nurse again, do I need to be there? And that was when she came back and said to me, I don't know, that's up to you. And to me, that was a huge red flag. And I remember my heart just dropping into my feet. And I told my husband, I have to go. I have to be there. I can't sit here and just do nothing. And God bless my husband, such a wonderful man. He says to me, just go, pack a bag, just go, leave Jet here, we'll be fine, just go take care of your dad. So I've never packed a bag so fast in all my life. I was out the door within 30 minutes. Thankfully, my friends stayed all day that day to help with jets so that my husband could still work. Got up to Georgia Friday night about 6:30, and I drove straight to the hospital. Well, I walk in, and it was the most terrifying sight I had ever seen, and I'm going to try to tell this without breaking down. I walk into my dad's room, and he is having what looks like a seizure. His chest is convulsing. The look on his face was pure fear. They had a face mask on him. The doctor was standing over him. You could see all the numbers on the screen. His blood pressure was sky high. He immediately reached out for my hand, and he grabbed me and he squeezed me, and he's never squeezed me that hard before. And the first thing I said to the doctor was, "Is he okay? Is this normal?" And she said, "No, this is not normal. He's having a blood pressure problem right now." And his blood pressure had really skyrocketed at that point, and it was creating a lot of breathing problems for him. And he kept trying so hard to talk to me through gasps of air, and I finally had to say to him, "Dad, just stop. Just relax and focus right now." Once the breathing episode had stopped, he says to me, "I'm so glad you're here." And I said to him, "Where else would I be?" That same night, he told me he was having hallucinations. He was describing them in great detail. He knew he was having them. He told me that there was someone in the room with him. And I asked him, "Is it a comforting person?" He says, "Yes, absolutely." And I said, "How long have they been there?" And he says, "They've been there for a few days." And I honestly believe that God had sent an angel to watch over him through this whole fiasco. Once I got there, that was when I got the entire full story. You gotta love HIPAA, but at the same time, you gotta hate HIPAA too, because I feel like over the phone, even though they knew I was his daughter and he had confirmed it, they wouldn't tell me anything. And it wasn't until I got there that I got the entire story. Now, I won't go into detail about his medical information and things that have gone on with him. I'll just give you a general overview. He had a problem that he thought he could fix himself. He couldn't. It turned into an infection. He didn't want to go see a doctor about it. Eventually, it got so bad that that's what landed him in the ER. And then when he got into the ER, the infection was so bad. And then they discovered that he had ketoacidosis on top of that. All of this combined together turned into pneumonia. They thought he had a brain infection at one point. He became septic. It was in his blood. They couldn't kill it. His white blood cells were increasing every single day that I was there. They could not get them to decrease. And every day that I was there, his condition deteriorated more and more, and they suspected that he had had a little bit of dementia before all of this happened, but he's so good at hiding it that nobody could pick up on the clues. And when I look back at things now, I see that, yeah, maybe he did have dementia and I was in denial about it. It came to a point on Sunday where I had two doctors pull me aside and tell me that you need to start preparing for his funeral. You need to call the other family members and let them know that if they want to say their goodbyes, they need to be here. That was so shocking to me because this man was so spry and active and normal a week ago. And now a week later, you're telling me that I have to prepare his funeral. It just didn't register. It was complete shock, really. And I know many of you know, but for those who don't, my dad and I are thick as thieves, and I love my dad so very much. It's so difficult to imagine life without him, and to be faced with that decision was more than I could bear. While I was going through this whole ordeal with my dad, my health is deteriorating more and more as the days go on, so much so that I wasn't sleeping. I had no appetite, so I wasn't eating. I mean, I wasn't even drinking water, I'll be honest with you. And I was having all kinds of ramifications from those things alone. I lost my voice completely while I was up there. I couldn't even talk. I had to type questions on my phones for the doctors when they came by. That was how I communicated for a couple days when I was in Georgia, just typing questions on my phone. I mean, I couldn't even order a drink when I went to Chick-fil-A. It was completely awful. And I have to take a moment here and recognize so many of you that follow me on Snapchat, Instagram, Twitter, who sent prayers, positive thoughts. You had your whole families praying, some of you. You had churches praying for my dad. The outpouring of support and the prayers that went up was the most touching thing anybody can ever experience. And I just want everyone to know how grateful and how thankful I am for all of you who kept sending these positive messages and prayers and keeping me in hopeful spirits, because I'll be honest with you, I was falling apart. Day 5 came and I had to go home because my little boy was getting sicker and sicker. And I had to make that horrible decision between being there with my dad or being there with my son. And I knew my dad would want me to be with my son, so I had to leave him. And it was such a heartbreaking thing to do. Finally, Tuesday came and his white blood cell count started decreasing for the first time in many days. They were getting the fluid off of his lungs from the pneumonia. They had graduated him from one of those huge breathing masks to the little nostrils for breathing. His oxygen was able to be maintained a lot better than it had been when I first got there. He was starting to turn a corner. His appetite was coming back slowly because for a few days there he was actually refusing to eat or drink, which was very concerning to me. Came back home. Found out I had mild bronchitis with an upper respiratory infection. They kept telling me, you need to rest. And I said, well, yeah, that's kind of an oxymoron statement because of all the stuff I've been through. It's been incredibly difficult. And once again, I have an amazing husband. Not only did he have the same exact thing I had, but he took care of Jet for me on the first couple nights I was back so that I could try and sleep and get past the sickness. Jet was getting worse and worse. It got to the point where I finally just took him back to the doctor again, and I was basically yelling. I wanted an answer. There is no reason why this little boy should be having 104 fever, and you guys can't tell me why. I mean, I was livid. Finally, got a good doctor who found out that he had a double ear infection, which I had suspected from the very beginning. And I can't tell you how angry I was that it took that long for them to find it. I guess it took a while for it to develop so that they could see it. I don't know. But the doctor was so concerned about him at that moment that he gave him a shot of antibiotics to jumpstart things and then put him on another liquid antibiotic that we're still giving him now. And I am happy to tell you that today was the first day in 2 weeks that Jet had not had that high fever, and you can see a change in him, and he is doing so much better. So praise God for that. But I am fully convinced that without our prayers and the prayers of so many of you, this story would not have ended the way it did. This is a miraculous gift from God. Praise God for this miracle. It truly is a miracle. And I have so many stories I could share with you about the miracle workings that God has done in my life. I mean, so many things. This one takes the cake. This one tops every single one of them. I have never seen God move in my life the way that he did in these scenarios specifically. So I just have to say the power of prayer is real. God is real. And if there's anything going on in your life, turn to him. He is there for you, and he will not let you go through it alone. I had so many people on social media contacting me, and Even though I was alone, I wasn't alone. And I hope that makes sense. I may have been alone physically, but I wasn't alone emotionally. There were so many supportive people. And I'm feeling much better. Thank you to everyone who has asked. The antibiotics have worked wonders, and everyone around here is feeling much better than we were a week and a half ago. So very thankful for that. Talked to my dad today. He was still a little confused. I've had some people tell me it's because he's in the hospital and he's not sleeping and all that, but that's not it. It's different. I can tell he's different. He's not who he was before. So part of me grieves for that. I don't know what kind of person he's going to be after all of this. But that's what's been going on here for the past 2 weeks. I'm very happy to be able to give you good news. I was sincerely hoping that I was not going to have to make a video about my dad passing away, because I'll be honest with you, when my dad does pass, I think I might be absent from YouTube for a little while. I mean, it's really going to hit me hard. It's going to devastate me. I'll just be honest. But we're not there right now. We are positive, we are happy, and we are hopeful. So I just want to thank all of you for being amazing friends, for being so supportive, and for those who've said such wonderful prayers and given such great advice. Thank you so, so much. I am looking forward to getting back to normal. I miss normal life. I filmed a video today actually reviewing a new brow product from Maybelline, which is why my brows look so banging today. I will have my regular video schedule back every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. I know many of you are looking forward to Frugal Fridays. I was supposed to be doing Frugal February, but we may just have to do Money Saving March. At any rate, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for being so supportive. Thank you for being subscribed. And I look forward to putting out many more videos for you to enjoy that are helpful, saving you time and money. I love what I do, and I hope that it does show through the videos. And thank you so much for being here. All right, I'll see you again soon.